Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is The World This Week, and with us is Anne Bagha-Murray of the International Herald Tribune, freelance reporter Ulrike Kolderman, and Hassan Zitouni of the satellite channel NBC, and Craig Kapitas, journalist and author of, amongst others, Mona Lisa's Pajamas. Welcome back to all of you. Before the break, we were discussing François Hollande's big day out, first EU summit in Brussels. And then we started to broach the topic of reality setting in. We've had words of layoffs in certain French companies, most notably Air France. It's not just France, by the way. We saw that it's been a brutal week for Europe's markets, rattled by persistent reports of capital flight, not just from Greece, but also from Spain, where the government's announced the nationalization of Bankia, a lending institution that's home to 10% of the country's deposits. The euro on Friday dipping to a new 22-month low, under $1.25. How low will it go?
Well, I mean, there are people who are saying that it's overvalued now, and its parity level is about 112. That's where it really should be. How low will it go? It can go, one of the wonderful things about markets is that they do not obey the law of gravity. What goes down never, ever has to come up again. And what goes up can go much further lower than it's ever been. Confidence in the euro as a currency is low and getting lower. And I think the only thing that can make it go lower is if Greece is allowed to leave the euro. So I imagine we're going to see quite a bit of discussion in the next few weeks. We were talking during the break about, or before the show, about exit scenarios. There isn't really an exit scenario for the euro. They didn't construct one when they created the single currency. And I have a feeling that everybody, speaking of reality, they talk about planning for a Greek exit. Greece will go back to the drachma. I have a feeling that once they approach the abyss, all the policymakers and planners, they're going to say, we can't let this happen. It's not going to happen. And so everybody's going to have to give a little bit, just as you said. There will be some compromises.
Hassan Zitouni?
Well, I would like to say just something about the new French president. I think we should give him some credit, because up till now, all what we have been hearing as far as dealing, the question of dealing with the crisis is concerned, is austerity measures. And this all, and I think he is trying to put a new alternative. And you mentioned something that it is an idea, the bonds, whatever, but there are different ways of trying to sort out this. And he is putting one idea. The other countries, there are other 17 countries who probably have other ideas to put forward. And I think that's how Europe should handle the crisis. Not one-way traffic by one country dictating to the others what and how they should run their economies. Austerity measures, as far as the United Kingdom, hasn't worked so far. The United Kingdom is in a double recession now. We are going into another recession. They have undertook some important austerity measures, but so far it hasn't achieved the results that they sought to start with. So let's look at this French president. He's trying to lead. He's trying to put the French ideas backed by other European countries up front. And why not? I mean, the ideas float around, and it might be a breakthrough. Growth is very important for these countries, and I think he's right.
At the end of the day, it's all a bargaining process.
Absolutely. And I think it's very dangerous to talk about exit strategies for the euro, for Greece. And it might be a good idea to threaten and to get governments to commit to more economic reforms. But to really think that Greece might leave the euro is not a good idea. I mean, after 60 years of political integration, we just can't see what kind of repercussions that would have. And it's a big question of confidence. And if Greece leaves the euro, that means that the whole project of the European integration, the political European integration, is in danger too. So at the end of the day, there will be gambling and there will be discussion, and maybe there will be some wealth transfer, but only if there are also commitments for economic reforms. So they will have to.
All right, final point on this. I see Craig Kapitas shaking his head.
The time for incubating ideas is long past. The battle has been between the markets and the policymakers. Who the policymakers want to keep the euro alive. The markets would like, in Greece, the markets would like to see the drachma come back. Right now, the markets are winning. I think for all that Hollande might be doing a new path forward, he didn't help himself at all by coming out with more rhetoric. He should have come out and put some stuff on the table, some policy papers, some documentation, and how the mathematics of how he was going to do this. He's had more than enough time to put it together. He is kicking the can still down the road. The only difference between him and Sarkozy used his right foot to kick the can. He's using his left foot.
And we'll obviously, again, as you were saying before the break, see how it all boils down after those legislative elections in France. Now, it's not just in Europe where banks have been bad. On the NASDAQ, the world's biggest ever public offering, turning into a giant fiasco. Facebook raising a whopping $16 billion, but then the stock losing nearly a fifth of its value after the initial public euphoria. Investors accuse banks, and not just Morgan Stanley, by the way, that handled that IPO, of telling their big clients about lower prospects, but not the wider public. Litigators feeling distinctly unfriendly about Facebook.
The damages are set by statute. There's all kinds of defenses that can limit the damages. But right now, if you looked at what the statutory damages are, they're somewhere north of $2.5 billion.
$2.5 billion. Is he going to see that money, Anne Bagamarie?
Well, in fees, he probably will. He's a litigator. I bet he'll be having the clock run. No, this was a train wreck waiting to happen. I mean, this is a company that, and nobody learns. Investors have very short memories. There have been bubbles upon bubbles upon bubbles. This was a bubble of a company all in and of itself, and all of the late social media companies have produced bubbles. Nothing has been a bubble like Facebook. I mean, if you look at the offering prospectus, if you look at the business plan, it's based on, and we're back in the 90s, we're back in the dot-com bubble, it's based on revenue that can't be assured. It's based on clicks. It's based on prospective sales of advertising wildly beyond what they've ever been able to do.
But even if everyone has Facebook, even if everyone is on Facebook?
No, there's a Zucker born every minute.
It's the homepage of Facebook says it's free and it always will be. For that reason alone, it's a terrible investment because there's no maneuverability to raising revenue in this product that everybody has and everybody swears by. It's crazy. So the price of the shares already was unrealistic.
And by the way, the media, the media has a lot of splaining to do here because, we were all, well, not those of us at this table, but the majority, no, we're perfect, folks. The vast majority of the financial media were getting behind this thing. They thought it was the greatest thing since the proverbial sliced bread offering back in 1847.
No, there were plenty of skeptics about whether the price was going to be justified. There were plenty of people who were saying this is a bubble.
I didn't see anyone come down on this with the wrath of God as they should have, as you just pointed out, because what's going on here is who is going to trust a third party to manage your relationships? The big thing on here, lest we're real specific on their model. Less than, I looked up a study today. Do you know, according to the Reach Students Marketing Firm, 0.04% of people who go to websites actually click on those ads, and the number is dropping. And do you know anyone who clicks on ads on, when you call
but 0.04% of everybody in the world is a lot.
No, because the estimates were as high as 5% when this whole thing started out, and it's still plummeting.
But the biggest danger is that people might at one point leave Facebook because it's again a question of confidence. Now everyone is happy to give them lots of personal data. And there just can be one moment when they are more critical and they don't want to give their data away than when they feel that Facebook wants to squeeze out money of them. Mm-hmm. But they can easily shift away and there will be another system. I mean, MySpace died. Google Plus is not really working. And it all depends on these people who give their data away for free. If they change their mind, Facebook is dead.
No,
well,
actually, go ahead,
I was going to say two very quick things. One is the Google Plus is rising with the young people, and Facebook is rising with people like us. So actually, if you want to look at where the potential market is, actually Google Plus is right there. The young people are very active on Google Plus. And the second thing is that the real fragility in the Facebook business model is privacy. At any point, if there is a bad breach of privacy, it's dead because no one will want to share these things.
Hassan Zitouni, writer Galvin Schulman in the Huffington Post wrote, Facebook's the king of the backlash. It takes a whipping and keeps on gripping us all. Try as we might, we can never break the bonds that our Facebook masters have us captive in. When you look at Facebook and what it's meant over the past 2-3 years, because it hasn't been around for that long, would you say it's positive or negative?
No, it has been positive. But just what struck me is the price of the shares when they were floating on them. I think that was quite high if we take into account the crisis that we are living in. So who set the prices to start with? And then when it comes to shares, I think this is very normal as far as I am concerned. I think this is very normal. Like you mentioned before, things go up and go down, and the prices will go up and go down. And I think this is the capitalism to you, and I think it has been. But Facebook will survive, will be, more people will be using it, and eventually the shares will go up.
You think so?
That's what I believe in, yeah.
Well, there's a lot of investors that hope you're right. I think it's going to end up as the largest class action suit in the history of the galaxy. You need, for anyone who's really interested in this whole Facebook thing, it's really worth actually taking an hour or so and sit down and reading the initial public offering. There's all kinds of little wonderful things.
Which is gripping, no doubt.
Well, it is gripping if you look, as you're saying, in the current face of the economy. It says in there that, I forget the exact number, but that within a certain amount of time after the offering, the IPO states that Zuckerberg was going to sell a whole bunch of shares to make a huge profit. So,
which is very normal.
Which is very normal. But the point is, the question that I've seen a lot of commentators asking, is this really the kind of fellow you want to entrust your privacy to? You know, after all, remember in Egypt, for instance, when if it wasn't for Facebook, there would not have been an Arab revolution. An Egyptian Arab Spring. And is this the type of activity that the head of Facebook should be involved in if he's supposed to be such a do-gooder?
Part of it.
There's a lot of contradictions here, and they mismanage the entire IPO. They mismanage the entire thing. These lawsuits are going to continue, and frankly, I think you're right. I think people are going to wait for it. My kids, for instance, they don't want to use it anymore.
Yeah.
They don't want to use it.
Why not?
There are companies who don't want to spend money on
General
ads.
Motors
General Motors pulled out. And it's true, the more people use it, the less they click on ads. So either they need to invent new forms of ad where you don't need to click because no one is interested in clicking on ads. But then again, if you feel that they are selling your private data, you just might log off.
Facebook might be ephemeral in the end, according to your prediction, not Hassan Zitouni's. But some things are eternal, and you know we were mentioning a little bit earlier on the EU summit. François Hollande there saying, despite his fondness for football, ruling out going to Ukraine for Euro 2012. This amid anger over the jailing of former Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko. The politics of sport has always made news. Also, the politics of, well, I guess you could say this time around, kitsch. The Russian Grannies, Moscow's entry in this year's Eurovision Song Contest, the sextet from the tiny village of Buranovo on the edge of the Ural Mountains, aren't the only ones that are turning heads, it seems. It's the venue that's causing the biggest stir this time around. Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, hosting the Eurovision Song Contest after last year's win by the duet El and Nikki. And there you see it, protests and activists in the streets of Baku. And ironically, Craig Kapitas, the human rights record of Azerbaijan is suddenly center stage along with the show.
As well it should be, and it's really a good thing. that the Eurovision Song Contest is there and that the Azeris won last year, so we can shine a light on this. It's whether it be sports or music, it's contemptuously convenient to think it's all about the music or to think it's all about the sport. In sports, for instance, the ancient Olympics, these were political gatherings. There were wars fought during the Olympics. With music, lest we forget, Woodstock was not just about the music. It was about Jimi Hendrix. It was about doing the Star-Spangled Banner, the anti-war. Over the years, what's happened within the IOC, what's happened within FIFA, what's happened within the organizers of these types of events, is they try to say, we're not connected to the politics. We have nothing to do with it. Well, they do. Just think of 1968, for instance, at the Mexico Olympics, when the two U.S. sprinters, black sprinters, put on black gloves and raised their clenched fists and all the trouble they got into. These are political events, and I think it's just terrific that everyone's shining the light right now because of Eurovision on what's going on in Azerbaijan.
And after the show?
Back to normal. Unfortunately, there's a lot of reasons for that, but that's the way it works.
And Baghameri, your thoughts on this?
I agree with Craig. I don't always agree with Craig, but on this one, it's the only way to make sure that countries that don't have good human rights records or good corruption records of any kind don't get to host these things is to forbid them from participating in the first place. Because eventually, with the Olympics, certainly with this contest, where the winner of the previous year hosts the next year, the wheel's going to turn, and you're going to end up not on the red, but on the black. You're going to end up with Olympics in Russia. You're going to end up with Olympics in China. You're going to have even countries with good human rights records doing reprehensible things to clean up their physical image for the cameras once they come. It happened in the United States. There have been cities where homeless people have been swept off the streets simply because they didn't want the ABC cameras to see them. So, the only way to make this a clean show, if you like, is to run a kind of Department of Moral Turpitude that makes the decision as to who gets to participate. And nobody really wants to go down that road because nobody's clean. And, one of the things that's wonderful about this, one of the reasons I watch Eurovision is because it's kind of fun to see a show where seemingly anybody can make it. I mean, the Russian grannies
and anybody can win, and so despite it all, there will be an element of the music. Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. But I want to thank you, Anne Baghameri. I want to thank Hassan Zitouni, Ulrika Kolderman, and Craig Kapitas. Thank you for being with us here for The World This Week.